Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for the opportunity to be here today and to speak to you. I'm very conscious of the fact that I suppose my background is totally different from most of yours. I have never been involved in local government at council level, but of course in my former role, I suppose, within the Western Education and Library Board, we were in effect a local authority dealing specifically with education, and we had a lot of councillors on our board. So from that point of view, I had a good deal of interaction with local councils. My background has been totally in education, and for the last 4 or 5 years I've been chair of the South West College, College of Further Education. So I just want to explain that by way of background. And I suppose the important thing is that listening to the previous speakers, I'm conscious of the fact that we're really in the middle of a huge change process, north and south. And what I want to talk to you about is a change process, an actual change process that has happened. Now, it was in a different sphere. It was within the further education sector. But as I was listening to the earlier speeches, the earlier presentations, you know, the change process is more or less the same everywhere. The context is different, but the values that are behind it, the processes and so on, they all have implications for one another. So I hope that in giving you an actual case study of an actual change process, that I'm not setting out, I'm not blowing a trumpet for the South West College or anything like that. I want to do a couple of things. First is to give you a background to the change process, more or less like what is happening now. Secondly, to set out what were the issues that we had to face, how we dealt with them, what the outcomes were, and some of the factors for success. And it will be a warts and all presentation, because there were a lot of warts. There were a lot of difficult issues that we had to deal with, as no doubt you will have to deal with many difficult issues, you know, in the months and years ahead. Just a very brief background to further education. When I worked in the Western Education and Library Board, the colleges were they were almost glorified secondary schools with a technical vocational bias. And I'm not saying that in a derogatory way, and probably in the South it would be more or less the same, not unlike the vocational schools, but technical bias, but not held in as high regard, for example, as the grammar schools or the universities. They were in between, right? A lot of the people who worked there, very, very good people, many of them from a trade background, and the emphasis was on technical and vocational education. I contrast that with the situation now, where the change is unbelievable, and our colleges of further education are now almost mini universities, with highly qualified staff, with tremendous premises, facilities, all the rest of it, great outcomes, very high level courses, and all the rest of it. But I suppose two things happened. One was from 2002-04, around that period, a serious look was taken at education, in the same way as a serious look has now been taken at local government. And that resulted in a document called Further Education Means Business. And I suppose at the heart of that document was the need for a new strategic direction for the colleges. And that strategic direction was to be focused on economic development, and particular economic development at local level. Right? So the stakes were much higher, and the colleges were seen to have an absolutely key role in developing a skilled workforce within their own regions. So there was a new vision and a new remit. At one stage, about 15, 20 years ago, there were 25 colleges, then they were reduced to 16. But it was clearly seen in 2004 or 5, around that time, that you needed a smaller number of bigger colleges to deliver the kind of new vision. And so in 2007, the 16 colleges were merged into 6 colleges. And in our region, which is the one I want to talk about, Tyrone and Fermanagh, the 3 colleges that we had, East Tyrone, which was Dungannon Cookstown, Fermanagh, which covered Enniskillen and the whole county of Fermanagh, and Omagh, which covered a lot of West Tyrone. Those three, and incidentally Enniskillen, Omagh, Dungannon are about 30 miles apart. Then Cookstown was part of the East Tyrone College, but it was a much smaller entity. But effectively there were 3 colleges on 4 sites, and they were merged into one college for this region, for the Tyrone and Fermanagh region. So effectively we had 3 former colleges, co-equal colleges, on 4 sites that were merged into one new college called the Southwest College. So that's basically the background. Now, what were the issues that we had to face? There were many. First of all, there were the general issues that you face within any merger, and that was, it was a major upheaval, resistance to change. People are always afraid of change. There's the great fear of the unknown. There's always the issue of what I call territoriality, right? We stick to our own. We look after the part of the region that was ours. Job security, attitudes, and then the potential absence of a vision. Because remember, we were dealing with low-level courses, low-level issues, and so on. And here we were faced with a new vision. But many of the people who were to deal with the new situation were people who had come from the old. So there's a danger always of looking backwards and not looking forward to the new vision which was set out in this document. Those were the general issues. The specific issues, my goodness. Well, in one, we had a really, really, really weak curriculum offer. Very low level, community-based, which was very good in many ways, but which was not addressing the needs of industry in any way, and there was little industry support, and in fact there was no engagement at all from industry. They just saw it as a low-level institution that wouldn't be of much help to them. In another, there was no higher education at all, and again weak industry support. In a third, there were huge issues about morale, human resources, human relations, financial instability, accountability issues, all of these. So those were the warts that came. There were great strengths in the colleges, and individually, a lot of them brought a lot of good things to the pot. But there were a huge number of issues that had to be dealt with. So our challenge really was to build on the strengths of the existing colleges, to develop a new corporate identity, to link in with the new vision which was set out in the key document, Further Education Means Business, to give an excellent learning experience to our students. That had to be at the heart of what we were doing. The students in our community deserved the best learning experience that we could give them, and that was our challenge, and to support local business and industry. So we set about dealing with those, and it was very difficult. But one of the things we had to deal with clearly was curriculum, because you had different curriculum offers in the different colleges. So we had to harmonise that and try and coordinate it across the 3 campuses. We set out a very clear vision in our college development plan, and at the heart of it, and it was important to get to that, was excellence in teaching and learning. We chose at an early stage a very important dimension, and that was we felt we needed to develop our higher education provision. And that has been one of the key elements that we've focused on relentlessly. And in fact, when I was looking at the film there earlier on, the one with the bear in the room, I thought, yes, there are lessons to learn from that, but we actually focused on passing the ball, which was it was the big issue was passing the ball across campuses, working together across campuses, making sure we didn't drop the ball, looking on the big vision, and trying to make sure that the bears in the room, which were the small issues, the legacy issues, the difficult issues, that we didn't focus on them. Maybe we saw them from time to time, okay, but we didn't focus on them. We tried to look at the whole idea of cooperation, of working together, of maximising the strengths, of not dropping the ball, but keeping our eye on that huge, important new vision that was set out there, which was making sure that we could develop a skilled workforce who would help the economic development of our region of Fermanagh and Tyrone. In connection with that, and I mentioned the development of higher education, links with the business community, with industry, absolutely critical, and that has been an important element. Links with schools, virtualisation programme, working collaboratively with the local councils and with the other colleges, expanding our regional dimension and our international dimension, working with government agencies, all those things were very important. Staffing, clearly a key issue, because again you had different people in leadership posts in each of the colleges, and it was important to get that right, and that's always going to be a contentious issue. But the key thing was to try and get it as right as you possibly could. Now remember, we weren't allowed to recruit from outside, so we had to maximise the strengths of the people we had there. But it was important. Now you never get everything 100% right, but it was important to try to make sure that we had the right people in the right place. And those right people were not necessarily always the people who seemed to be good in the small pond. Because some people can be very good in the small pond, but when it comes to the bigger pond, with the new vision and so on, you need to make sure that the people who are in key leadership roles are looking to the big picture, to the new vision, to the new way forward, and that they have the skills and ability to do that. Staff engagement, staff morale, trying to build a positive attitude. That was critical, because I mentioned in one campus in particular, the morale was very, very low, and it manifested itself particularly in sickness absence. That was a great indicator of where we were, and it was one of the issues that we had to tackle at an early stage. In administration, we had to set up new structures and systems and so on, develop a corporate identity, good brand marketing, and using technology to do all those things. Now, that's just a very brief outline of some of the things that we dealt with and how we had to go about it. But was it a success? Well, all I can do is give you some facts and figures, just a few facts and figures which I think show that our strategy was successful. And then I'll mention briefly, I think, some of the things that contributed to that strategy. Our enrolments have gone up significantly. Our full-time higher education has gone up from just 100 to 500. Those are people who are doing university degrees. And that's full-time, and we have from 800 part-time to 1,100 students in part-time higher education. Our budget has increased from 32 million to 42 million. Again, we're one of the smallest colleges in terms of student numbers, and one of the things we had to do was diversify our income sources by looking at new opportunities with industry, by sourcing EU funding and all the rest of it, looking beyond ourselves, looking to new ways of doing things, because we couldn't depend on the basic funding we were getting from the department. We've increased our links with schools. We've increased our number of 16 to 19 full-time students. And we've developed a very, very sound financial base and have invested that in each of the 3 campuses in innovation centres that are linked particularly towards supporting industry, that are linked with the STEM subjects, science, technology, engineering and maths, because that's where the key priorities are. So instead of while we still regard the community education element as very important, we've had to develop this new focus of making sure that our support for industry, for the business community, that is at the heart of it, and that we're giving people the high-level successes and the pathways to success that will make them skilled workers within our regional economy. Have we been successful? Well, I think so. Our inspection reports have been excellent. Our audit reports have been excellent. We have a huge improvement in staff attendance, by far and away the best among the 6 colleges in Northern Ireland. We have tremendous engagement with the business community. We've won many, many, many awards at local, regional, national and international level. We've recently got Investors in People for the whole college, which again is an indication that our systems are good and that there's good people development and staff morale and so on. And in the past year, because of one of the key awards we got in Britain, we've been invited to become a member of the Gazelle group of colleges, which were the only Northern Ireland colleges in that, and it's one of the elite groups of colleges who are really looking at entrepreneurship and are looking at collaborating in best practice and so on. What were the factors? Now, you know, I've touched on these things very, very briefly, but I was trying to look at what were the elements that brought about success for us. And I think the first thing was a shared vision. And that was a vision at board level, at Board of Governors level, and at senior staff level, and filtered right down through the organisation. And that was set out very clearly in our development plan. So we had shared vision and a common purpose. So knowing where you're going and being committed to the key strategic objectives, that is key. And our strategic objective was economic development in support of the programme for government. Right? So we see ourselves as the key deliverer at regional level, at Fermanagh and Tyrone level, for developing the key priorities of government, which are developing a skilled workforce to improve economic development in Northern Ireland. Working, of course, with the councils, working with everybody else, but our role is to try and develop, train, educate a skilled workforce. That's critical. The second one, and I cannot emphasise the importance of this, and it has been pointed out here over and over again, it is good leadership. We can have a best board of governors in the world, but if we don't have good leadership at the top, almost nothing will happen. So our job as the Board of Governors, I suppose your job as a council, number 1 and 2 is to set the strategic direction. 2, to hold to account. Those are key elements. To set the strategic direction, to hold to account, and then not interfere in the executive work. We see that as key. We've appointed, we think, good leaders. We know we've appointed good leaders. Our job is to make sure that we're all on the same wavelength as far as the strategic direction. Our job is to hold them to account and not get in the way. The other thing, and this is critically important also, is that there is a positive attitude among everybody who is involved, and that we replace competition and territoriality with collaboration. If you have one winner and one loser, effectively you have two losers. What we have tried to do through working together across the campuses, through good staff development programs, is to try and get people working together for the benefit of the whole region, not for the benefit just of Dungannon or Cookstown or Omagh or Enniskillen, because that only sets up internal jealousies. But we have a corporate brand. It's the southwest region. It takes in Fermanagh and Tyrone, and what we need to do, and what we've succeeded in doing, is developing each of the centres. And individually, each centre has improved, developed, and collectively we're much better than the sum of the parts, than the sum of the old parts. But it's critical that we go for the win-win solution, that we don't pull against each other, that we don't see one area as being more important than the other. As I said, is replace territoriality with a win-win. Because if you do that, then everybody will win. And I suppose in a way it's about trusting your neighbour, building trust, and not blocking one another. And all that has been a huge element in I think, in our success. One issue that I haven't dealt with is, where is your headquarters? And I can't answer that question because I don't really know. Because we don't really have one. We have centres of service. So we have strength in each campus. We rotate the meetings between the campuses, and it has worked for us. I can't say any more than that. but it has worked for us. I think we have moved from the smaller units, the smaller range of courses, the lower level courses, the vision restricted by prevailing perspectives and expectations. We've moved from that to a new strategic perspective, informed by a new vision of further education means business. And as a result of that, I hope that we have made a significant development to improving the element that we are responsible for in our local region. And I know that as a result of the attitude that we've taken, the working together within ourselves, the working with departments, not pulling against them, seeing them as friends, trying to build collaborative alliances and all the rest of it, all that, I think I can say with confidence that we are certainly, well, I think number one among the 6 colleges in Northern Ireland. You will say I would say that, wouldn't I? But I think I can say it with confidence on the basis of the positive outcomes we've got in terms of the inspection reports, in terms of the esteem in which I think the college is now held by the general public. So while I'm not blowing a trumpet, I'm saying that that positive attitude of working together with all our partners and within ourselves, between the Board of Governors, the strong leadership and all those things, I think they have built a very strong college that has made and is continuing to make, and I hope working with the new council in our area, the new councils, in fact, because we will cover 2 or 3 of them, that we will continue to develop and to go from strength to strength. So thank you very much.